Hey y'all, today I'm going to be recapping my 2 games against Nelson from Chess Vibes. Nelson already graciously put out a video giving feedback on my gameplay, but that was from a 2000 plus rated player, so I'd like to share my viewpoint on the games and what was going through my mind as a 1000 rated player. So let's get into game 1. E4, E5, I thought, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. I can get through one move, and I think I'm in a good position. But on the second move, with the bishop's opening, I was already stumped. I rarely play against the bishop's opening. And honestly, what I have done in the past is just try to fianchetto my own bishop with the hopes of getting a rook down the line. So that's what I did. But I honestly probably should have fianchettoed on this side because I'm just already blocking this bishop with the e5 pawn. So that I can see why that was a questionable move. Nelson just strikes back in the center. And I thought about it for a second and was kind of terrified at the prospect of if I take the pawn, take back, like having a bishop and the queen already out, and I don't have any pieces developed, really. The queen's already looking at this rook. I just didn't really want to deal with that, so what did I do? A questionable move, of course. Because I was expecting that for Nelson to take my pawn, then I would recapture with this pawn, and the queens would be staring right at each other. At my level, I would say almost always, if the queens even look at each other once, there's going to be a queen trade happening right then and there. So that's what I thought was going to happen, so that's what I did. However, I did not take into consideration this bishop right here and think about a check that could happen. And that is exactly what happens. I'm already pawn down, and I'm going to lose my queen. I resigned immediately because I'm not going to get anywhere 7 points down and without a queen, with the prospect of more material to get off the table. So overall, I was disappointed in my first game, but that's why I wanted to play a second game. So I'm going to recap that game right now. So in game 2, I had the white pieces, and I started off with d4. Nelson developed a knight, and already I have the chance to play my favorite opening at my level, the Trumpowski attack. So I was expecting that maybe Nelson would develop another knight, and I would gladly take and double up Nelson's pawn structure. That, of course, did not happen. Nelson fled the scene, and I decided to just defend that bishop. In my mind, again, at the 1000 level, a bishop and a knight are worth the same, right? 3 points. If anyone would like to tell me maybe different situations when a knight would be better or a bishop would be better, I would really appreciate that. I still struggle with understanding the differences and the capabilities of each. But here I was glad, equal trade in my mind, but this threw me for one. At first I thought, Nelson is just attacking the d4 pawn, but no, my knight is hanging, so I defend the knight. I have to giddy up on out of there, and I have to do that yet again. Just striking back in the center, it's pretty brutal. Nelson decided to keep pushing his central pawns. I thought I would develop another knight, although this really isn't the best square, right? There's not really the biggest range of mobility for this knight. And I mean, just another push. But so I thought that's appetizing. I'll take that pawn and be up one pawn. But I didn't really realize that essentially renders his light squared bishop useless, at least for the meantime. This kind of stumped me for a second. I didn't quite understand what this move is doing, but it took me a while to think like, oh, that's just mate. That's just mate, and I would lose in like 7 moves again, or 9 moves, I guess. I spotted that, thankfully, so the game could keep going. But yeah, I was terrified. So I'm not quite sure why this is like a blunder. I just wanted to get this knight to a more active square. And I was hoping that Nelson would take my knight and I'd be able to recapture with the pawn. That's usually what happens at my level. Kind of like what I was saying earlier, that I feel like trading off a bishop for a knight or vice versa, it just happens a lot at my level. Here's a check. So I move to this square. And here we go. This is a moment in time when I am happy. But I will corroborate that at this time Nelson was typing in the chat that, you know, he's at a restaurant, he's waiting for food, so he's not quite sure when he'll get his food or when he'll have to stop playing. But anyways, I go back again, hoping for a knight trade. That's exactly what happens. And now at this moment in time, I'm terrified. I guess I have a better position. I mean, I'm up 3 points of material, but this is just scary to me. I'm not quite sure why, but I mean, I can't castle. My king is really just immobile, and I didn't know what to do, so I tried to flee the scene, and that is a blunder. I didn't realize that the main point, or I guess the piece that mattered most, was this e3 pawn, if I wanted to defend it. But we all know what happens. It's just mate. But yeah, overall, I was happy to have gotten to play a longer game, and I learned a lot about really developing your pieces to better squares, and the importance of having a safe king early on, because that's really what happened in both games. In my mind, is that the king was hunted down pretty much from the get-go. But yeah, I hope to give Nelson a better fight a year from now, and I can't wait for that to happen. So stay tuned for my progress. Thanks.